So I was just reflecting, I made a little kind of joke kind of thing, or statement last Saturday where I said something like, like you go looking for truth, and you go to all these courses and read all these books, go looking for truth, and after a while, truth comes looking for you, And I think that when you've practiced like this for a little while, that you start to change. I notice you changing. I don't know if you notice you changing, but basically, like you're as you change, and so your goodness comes out more. You're more kind, uh, understanding, more not 100% now. Okay, so you're more understanding, more kind. You're sharp without being prickly. Do you understand what I mean? You know what I mean? You see clearly without being prickly. Yeah, best way I have of describing it. Yeah.
Without being a cactus.
Without being a cactus, exactly, yeah. So, no, like there are difficult people in this world. I know. I was one of them. You should know. You might have been one of them. Right? Normally, when we see a difficult person, we see a difficult person. But that's actually not who they are. Just like you are not that difficult person that you may have been. They're going through difficulty. That's why they're difficult. So, just as you change, it's possible for them to change. But here's the thing. Even a Buddha can't change a person. It's not possible. Why? Because they're stuck in a world that they've created. You might know a little bit about this yourself. We create the difficulty. Just like when we sit in meditation, the thoughts are just thoughts, just empty appearances. And yet, we don't leave them like they are. We create all kinds of difficulties. I know, I still do it. We have an advantage. We know this is the one we work with. Shulgam Trungpa, whom I find very difficult to read and understand. He's great Kagyu master, crazy man. There's so many stories about it. But anyway, the thing that he said was, he said in other religions, the dagger is pointed outward. You shouldn't this, you shouldn't that. No meat on Fridays. Or whatever it is. Do you get me? The dagger is pointed out at other people. He says, in my religion, the dagger is pointed in at me. I'm the one who needs to develop love, compassion, understanding, clarity. And that's why it's almost impossible to help someone that's in a difficult. Do you understand? It's very difficult to help somebody who's being difficult. Very difficult. There is one thing you can do, though. Make them feel better. This now, I haven't read this in any book. This is just from my personal experience. You make them feel better. How do you do that? But that's up to you, really. You know them. Yeah? Like when we were over in Ireland, we were with our daughter, and we were walking towards this lovely Italian restaurant. Parked the car, walking towards this lovely, and this guy, my daughter was walking out in front, okay, we're kind of slow, old, and so this guy comes up to my daughter and he says, "Oh, would you mind, would you have some change, begging for money, And she said no, and it was true, she didn't have any change. He lost it. He started shouting at her, threatening her, and all the rest of it. Very difficult for in that kind of thing. And I thought afterwards, we just left him alone, just walked on, But I thought afterwards, that's an example of a difficult person. That's an example of somebody who's, And next time it happens, if it ever happens again, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do something mad. Remember I said choking drunk who is mad? I'm going to do something mad. I'm going to go over and says, "Can I give you a hug?" No, I'll probably get bruises. But to get the point I'm trying to make is, you try to change that person's emotional world. So, particularly with relatives. Now, interesting thing about relatives is they don't mind showing you their rough side. Because familiarity breeds contempt. This one, like if you're going to have a row with your partner, what do? You go to a restaurant. You're not going to get shouted at. You're probably not going. Do you get this? Do you get the point I'm trying to make here?
Could I interrupt?
Yes, please, Cecily.
Yeah. I'm sitting in the background because I've been in the background because I'm attending another thing here at the Zal in a moment. When Martin says you try to change the emotional environment or whatever, in a way you don't have to try to do anything. You don't have to struggle. Because when you're coming from that space, that love, that knowing yourself, and that kind of confidence of knowing that, then that leaves space for them. It allows them space. And in that space, they can actually start to feel who they really are. They mightn't know it, and they'll revert back straight off to the habitual thing, whatever it is.
Any push will come resistance.
You don't show any effort to change them. That's pushing them, that's backing them into a corner. Because then it's on your terms. Whereas if you're genuinely spacious, kind, open, and like judgments will happen, but you don't have to voice them. Like Martin was saying, you see, but you don't need to lash out or anything. Yeah.
So,
Martin?
yes, please,
Martin?
Dennis. Yeah.
A story. I was in Limerick there a couple of months ago, and I was parking, and this woman, I think she was a bit strung out now, but she asked me for some money, and I just came out of my car, and I said, hell with it. Normally don't, but I had some change in my pocket, and I gave her the change, whatever it was, maybe €1.20 or something, and she got it, and she threw it on the ground. She said, "That's no good to me." She said, that is worth the hell to me. She said,
Wow.
I need €5 or €10 for drugs or whatever, but just threw her on the ground, bang, and went away.
Yeah. That you see, you have to understand that you can't penetrate their world.
No.
Do you know? You can't use logic. You can't use anything like that. The one thing you can do. Why do I say it? Like make them feel better? Because actually, there is hidden in there a decent human being. You see. So when you know what I'm trying to say, but a lot of the time you can't do anything. You have to leave them. But that thing about find some way to, that one you're talking about, Dennis, is I don't know if there's any way to do that. But a lot of the time, when it comes to people that we're more familiar with, like what I was saying, like with our family and so on, that when you find them being stroppy, a lot of the time it is because they are experiencing suffering. And so if you can help in any way, could do anything, like say for example your mother-in-law is being it's being difficult. You know what I was going to say? Make her a present or something. You know what I mean? Like, she'd probably go, "Oh, that bitch is trying to win me over to her." You get the point. Is basically try to change the emotional environment and let them experience a little bit where you're coming from. That space that we experienced earlier when we were meditating. That's it.
And I think, like if you're with somebody who's on the street, they're begging, that's one situation, because you're not necessarily that emotionally involved.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's fairly easy to sit down and have a chat, or just have a chat. But if it's something like family or something, and they or you are in some kind of an emotion, there's emotions on both sides, and it can be quite personal.
Yeah.
You may be listening to the person sitting on the street, but all you have to do is sit down and have a chat. You mightn't even have the money.
Could I say,
it's fine.
To just say one thing right off. When we started the meditation, I don't know if you were plugged in by then. When we started the meditation, I said, we begin with the wish. May I overcome my afflictions. You see, when you are part of the problem, I can't see how you can be part of the solution. A lot of this is actually coming to know your own goodness. Coming from there rather than the upset. If you're upset, it's not going to work out well. May I overcome my afflictions.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you're upset, if you're emotional because it's somebody you love or it's good friends or whatever. It's more challenging, I find personally, than a total stranger on the street. I'm able to talk to quite easily. You know, there's no story, there's no history between us.
Yeah, yeah. But again, you notice here, Sheila, I'm not talking this, which in a minute, Dennis. Sheila, here, we're not talking about talking to people. We're talking about changing their emotional environment. This is not intellectual, right? This is not, you understand? This is not about words. This is about feeling.
This is not intellectual talk. This is just having a chat. I had a chat with a guy in Limerick. I sat down for half an hour. He said I'd been begging for 3 months, and I was the first person who actually talked.
There you go.
I'm just talking about a chat.
That's exactly right, Sheila. That's exactly right. You see, showing respect changes the emotional environment, but not trying to explain to somebody or change them. Do you understand? Being open, being with them, you know. Dennis?
Oh, sorry, Martin. Yeah, you said that those who are closest to our family and relations and so on, they know the buttons to push, really. They know what's you said that before.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
again, can you see that what I'm talking about here is like a different approach to, yeah, okay. And cuts down on a lot of suffering, really does. Yours and theirs. Okay?
I'm thinking, Martin, there, if one could do it, it probably work really well for yourself. And you feel yourself getting powerful emotions, if you could just give yourself that as well. Please change the landscape. Just take time out.
Exactly.
It's very hard to remember
Yeah.
to do it, but I think it could work really well if
Yes.
one could.
Exactly. There's a lovely one that one teacher repeated many times. Don't listen to confusion. You know, it's a little bit like you're sitting there in meditation practice and this bitchy thought comes along. Leave it alone. Let it be. Don't try to stop it. It stops of its own accord when you leave it alone. Do you see? So, yeah. Slowly. This is interesting. Slowly, the whole world changes. This is, do you understand? Your whole world changes. Not a victim anymore. This stuff is amazing. It's so simple.